All right, all right. Peace and love, peace and love. It's your brother Isaiah tapping in with another one for all my conscious brothers, sisters in the conscious community, keeping the struggle. Uh, we know that it's through the struggle that we grow. Also, I like to say that it is, in fact, a slow process for progress and that the race is never to the swift, but it's to those that remain dutiful. Make sure y'all stay in this for the long haul. Uh, okay. So I want to go into some very important information. All right, we're gonna read some stuff. We're gonna go over some stuff real quick. Let me get to my screen so I can share. Okay. All right, by right, the power and authority. This is canon law, positive law. Okay. Also known as the covenant of one heaven. These pyramids of laws known collectively as canonum, the lust positive, and also known as the canons of positive law, are hereby promulgated in the original form of the Eudicadian language. And a primary one, the only true first canon of positive law, excluding the covenant of one heaven and all other laws, claim and agreements claiming standards of positive law shall be inferior to these canons ab initio, right? These canons of positive law may be taken in official original document form and spoken form to represent part of one complete set of 22 canons of laws known collectively as Astrum Canonum, whatever that is, also known as the living body of the divine canon law and the height of all original law. And when referencing to these canons of positive law collectively, it may also form in spoken word that this complete and accurate set of laws as the highest original law. Look, man, I can't make it up. But this, what we reading right now, you reading some of the highest laws in existence, right? In accordance with these canons of positive law, Society of One Heaven, also known as the One Heaven Society of United Spirits, also known Holy Seat of the United Spirits, also known as the Holy Society, reserve all rights to itself, and as all rights are reserved, no translation, copy, citation, duplicate implies any transfer or conveyance of these rights. And when part of all of these laws is presented or spoken in any language other than official Judeo-Akkadian language, it may be taken as a translation and not as primary language. Therefore, any secondary meaning implying deficiency, claim, or patient, or right, or other, or any other defect initio from the beginning and relatively, it may also be taken the original form of these laws reside as a natural spiritual document. What? What? I can't make it up, bro. What? You see that? A supernatural spirit document. This document so fire, I can't make it up. Rested in heaven first. What? What? Look, it says rested in heaven first. A supernatural spiritual document rested in heaven first. In a physical registry in the public record of one heaven of second. Therefore, wherever any official or valid form of these laws is presented in physical form, it shall be bound to it from which it derives its spiritual powers, authenticity, and let no man, woman, spirit, or officer of a lesser society place themselves in grave dishonor of divine law, natural law, and the living law upon denying the validity of these canons of laws, having been warned act in defiance of these laws, that any in any spiritual opposition to the validity of these laws shall be immediately returned upon maker as written, so it be. When I say this thing fire, check it out. All right, no law is valid or has any authority or force or effect unless the body of the canon laws preceding this canon known as the canon, I guess that's how you pronounce it, in accordance with whatever, right? Positive law is the law that are enacted by proper authority in accordance with these canons for the government of a society. Positive law ultimately refers to physical objects and living beings, and all positive law may be said to derive. Positive law cannot abrogate or nor change natural law, nor is it possible for positive law or natural law to abrogate or suspend or change divine law. Established in accordance with or by statute of juridic persons within the limits of their established authority, like judges, lawyers, juridic persons. No valid positive law issued in accordance with these canons create or alter divine, natural, or law. A positive law is established and takes force when it is promulgated in accordance with these canons, right? So then it gives you the precept, right? It says all positive law may be defined by 4 foundations, including concepts, principles, operations, and results, and 19 systems, including ecclesiastical law, administrative law, life and ethics, food and drugs, knowledge, property and succession, money and language, civilizations, entities, religions, sacred texts, treaties, rites, customs, sacraments, end times, places. That's pretty much everything right there, right? Now it says when anyone refers or writes or speaks of positive law, it means these canons, right? Now check this out. Equity is expressed as active presence of impartiality, uniformity, calmness, decency, and reasonableness in the actions and performance of duties of all who claim to represent. The word equity is the equitus, meaning uniformity, impartiality, fairness, dealing, and calmness of mind. The act of demonstrating of the golden rules who represent the law, that all are equal under the law and are subject to the law. When equity ceases, law ceases, right? Fairness is expressed as the absence of bias, malice, vested interest, or predisposed opinions, the active presence of decency and reasonableness in the actions and performance and duties of all who claim to represent the law. The word fairness originates from the ancient Gaelic word fair, meaning the act of watching, guarding, as well as horizon or skyline. The absence of fairness is the absence of law. One who is incapable of demonstrating lacks the character and honor to be a judge. One who is incapable of demonstrating fairness lacks the character and the honor to be a judge. This is why they don't want y'all to know these laws right here. Uniqueness of fundamental features of all objects and concepts of existence. Object and dimension is unique virtue of occupying unique space. And every concept is unique by virtue of unique observation in precept, right? While the law may be the same, every matter before it is defined by unique. Therefore, every man and woman has a right to be heard. Each one of us are unique, right? Right to be heard. All these laws, all that stuff, you get the Constitution, you got the right, all that stuff come from this document, right? Check it out. Denial and consent and demonstration of exercise of free will. Denial is a refusal by free will to endorse or accept an action or ritual. Like when they take you to court and make you plea and all of that. Consent is the acceptance by free will of the endorsement or acceptance of an action or a ritual. So when you go in there and you consent, you participate and say, I don't consent. You see what I'm saying? I don't treat it ain't my will to participate in these proceedings. You see what I'm saying? That's a right you have, right? Whereby the existence and sustainment of an object is dependent on the existence of others. All objects and concepts with a codependent universe. In the accordance, all members of the Homo sapien, all members of the Homo sapien species are dependent upon, right, sustainable coexistence to some degree. Therefore, when all members of the Homo sapien has free will, the full demonstration of free will in the form of complete freedom is not possible within any type of society without anarchy. So basically, like how you see, when you're trying to, they call you a sovereign citizen, you know, without it causing a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's telling you. When applied to positive law of dependency means no form may exist in reality independent of the body of law that it defines, that defines it. Therefore, the fundamental deed of any society does not exist as truly independent of law, even if it declares itself to be so, as a body of law which enables the form of a constitution, deed, or declaration to be construed in the first instance must have prior existence. In all societies that use the form of law known as Western law, also known as Roman law, also known as common law, as form from which to create their constitutions and of independence remain dependent upon this higher form of law and dependence within this framework of law. Claim or perceive independence. So they not independent of these canons, bro. What do you think they got their laws from? From here. From this right here. That's why I'm showing it to you. Used to define the quality of having intention or purpose. Hence, the early definition of meaning as in mind in a purpose. So when you have meaning, you basically say you have purpose in this life. All meaning is defined and subject to 7 systems and 1 state of being and of divine law preceding this canon. The 7 are classification systems, systematic systems, and property language. What is that? Amoxes, however you pronounce that. In mind, the 1 state of being is unique collective awareness. So it's and it is being uniquely collectively oximus, right? I guess that's how you pronounce it. So to be collectively aware is 1 state of being, right? All valid meanings of words shall be aggregated into an official Euclidean lexicon as a single source and reference. Any meaning that is not defined in accordance with these canons of law is automatically null and void from the beginning of its use. So you should be able to find anything that they're doing within these. As when anyone reference right speaks true meaning or meaning, it shall mean these canons. So that means that if you hear anybody say true meaning or the meaning of this word, they all that comes, meaning they got all those words from here. All right, check it out. Let's keep going. Gnosis is a fixed in or reliance on the validity of or attribute of a form based on proof, reason, or logic without the need of belief or faith. Knowledge, therefore, in the truest sense means the quality of possessing and displaying gnosis. So when you have knowledge, you can reason, you can bring proof to the certain aspects of things. I can prove that, my name is a business, because I have reasoning, I have logic, I'm able to discern, right? That's the truest form of quality, right? When you're presenting and displaying knowledge. To know thyself implies not only to learn, but the ability to discern what. So when you become aware, you are in what you are not. You become aware of what a record is and what a truth is. And being able to become knowledgeable, knowing this, to know thyself, right? Thus, knowledge, gnosis, is the true knowledge, has always been the enemy of deception and those who deliberately mislead. So to actually come to a state of awareness that they don't like when you show them that you're aware of certain facts. And it's of divine law and natural law, proven with proof, reason, and logic alone, and true law rest upon gnosis in knowledge, not faith and belief. So in order for you to have a divine connection with things, you got to have knowledge. You got to have, faith and belief ain't going to get faith and belief in a story all you want to. But that ain't, you got to have knowledge. You got to have understanding of things, right? Any definition that attempts to connect the opposite concepts of faith and belief to knowledge or gnosis or knowledge is deliberately false and misleading in accordance with the canons, and any such definition is automatically really null and void. You can have all the faith and belief you have in Jesus and law and everything you want to, but when it comes to knowledge and then knowing the thing, it can't stand. Faith and belief ain't can't stand. You knowledge of a thing. You got to either know it's true or have knowledge to know that this thing is real. Can't just be. You got to at least come to a state of knowing, right? And anybody trying to tell you to have faith in God over anything that anybody's saying is lying to you. You know what I'm saying? Connotations or definitions meaning to gnosis, right, is in favor of belief and faith, or deliberately false and misleading arguments in accordance with these canons, and any such automatically rendered null and void. You cannot put faith and belief over somebody with. Can't do it. If somebody coming to you with knowledge, you got to at least try to learn or figure it out. You can't just keep saying, well, I have faith to believe this. That ain't gonna get it. It says, when anyone references or writes or speaks of gnosis, true knowledge, or knowledge in respects of law, it shall mean these canons and none other, right? Keep going. Let me show you how it comes from the 16th century invented English word Bible, right? Bio, meaning or to give or bless, and litis, meaning quarrel, dispute, lawsuit. Hence, the literal meaning of belie being to offer, to give, or to bless with quarrel or dispute. The term belie personifies the false, immoral, repugnant, and absurd notion, quid vote, deceptive, whatever this is, meaning let him who wished to be deceived, whereby a person unable to distinguish truth from falsity exonerates the liar by accepting the lies as true, right? Belief. And belief is not, so when they tell you come believe in God, come believe and be blessed. God is the true God. He's the blessing God. He's the loving God. Like when they doing stuff like that, that's what it's talking about, right? As faith from the Latin word and the occult and the chromatic philosophy of controlling the destiny of the living people by binding them to a ghost is a fictional term describing belie or in knowingly falsity, deception, lie, or contradiction. See what I'm saying, man? Look, I can't make it up, bro. So they put you in a state of belief. They put you in a state of hope. They put churches and mosques all around you. Man, listen. I just decided now I just want to bring it to the fore because we need to know certain things and, time going on, man. I can't hold all this as gnosis or true knowledge or truth. Belief is based on deliberate and knowing falsity, belie, false representation, misrepresentation, contradiction, while gnosis and true knowledge is based on trust born from proof, reason, or logic. Stuff that can be proven. Belief is not the same as a difference of opinion or dispute of perception of facts. A belief is by definition a deliberate and knowing falsity, belie, deception, lie, slander, to trick and deceive a person spellbound or believing a faith. Therefore, an argument in defense of belief as merely a opinion or a dispute of perception in itself as a belie. Come on, man. Man, y'all gotta hype Brother Isaiah up, bro, because I'm exposing what they did. I've been saying it for a minute. I've been saying it on a lot of videos that, hope and belief, and I'm showing it to you. Like, these are tricks. And the reason why you don't know that this is trickery is because you would never been exposed to these canons. You've never been exposed to a higher law that explains what these type of tools are that are being used against you, right? All inferior canon law and these rebel using to acknowledge the supremacy of the sacred covenant. So all the Romans that go against these laws that we're reading right now, they refuse to follow the true laws. And they went against the law, so they start building faith, belief, hope. They start building systems of lies, all right? and they hid the real truth from us so we would never be able to discover what was really going on. All claim laws of such rebellion and outlaws are inferior to these canons. Like, look, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Trust is the confidence, proof, or faith. So it is your name without actual proof, right? You don't have no real proof that that's your name, right? Trust is now applied to the form of administration and conveyance of rights, obligations, and relationship and relations, right? Trust does not have the same meaning as faith. Trust does not inherently imply the need of proof, nor faith or confidence in something being true. Whereabout faith is in its original fictional sense, meaning a duty of fulfilling one to strengthen certain fictional models on faith, the definition of trust has been deliberately misconstrued. So they misconstrued the definition of trust, right, to throw you off. As these canons of divine law, cognitive law, and positive law incorporate the proof of existence of all with and without the need of proof, it may be correctly concluded that these canons are perfect trust. When anyone reference rights trust, true trust, or perfect trust, it shall mean these canons and none other. All right. Reality is a fictional of existence, constructed upon a form, and meaning enabling the degree of certainty and reproducibility necessary for operation of positive law. Neither reality nor absolute truth exists according to natural law or divine law, as the universe of unique collective awareness depends upon the existence of paradox and relativity, right? A functional mode of existence, the existence of a paradox and relativity, right? Thus, within a fictional universe of reality, in accordance with all positive law, the of truth exists, and the certainty of logic and reason may be applied. Reality permits the recognition and existence of certain concepts considered valid under positive law that do not exist under natural law or divine law. Such concepts as freedom, justice, and morality do not exist with integral to the optimum function of civilized societies under positive law. All statutes promulgated through valid positive law in reality operate according to interpretation and not substitution, right? And all statutes promulgated through valid positive law in reality operate according to logic and fact and not paradox and relativity, right? And a valid consistency definitions and operations of are these canons of positive law defined by. All right, so let me go down real quick. So everything in here from norms, forms are all these different things, right? I'll tell you some stuff in here real quick. Let me go down. All right, so truth is a concept, originally meaning the quality of being steadfast and inherent, right? Or friend, or principle, or cause one to, or cause, or to one's promise. Truth means, in essence, to be honest, to be trustworthy, upright, or virtuous, sincere, and free from deceit. So if you promise to pay somebody, then the truth is for you to pay. If you don't pay, that's dishonorable, right? That's dishonor. All right. So when what we're doing is we're doing acts and deeds. When we're signing contracts, when we're doing stuff, we got to understand that we under ancient term. It seems like we living in a modern day right now, right? Seems like everything is moving fast. You got flying cars, you got new cell phones, but the ancient laws that's been here for ancient centuries are still in play. The same laws that your ancestors were bound to, it's the same laws that you are bound to this day. You get here, you're not looking at it, it's there. You know, all these laws about deception, deceptive acts, practices, and all these laws is because the people that run stuff like this, they know, the ones that put it together know these laws, and then they set up societies based off these laws to induce and manipulate people and take advantage. All right, so let's get this right. So a form is a shape, appearance, and properties of an object. All right, attributed through a valid action or a ritual. And so citizenship is a form or appearance of, right, of a concept valid through a ritual called registration, right? Never the object or the concept. So when you look at a man, flesh is a form, body is a form, but the form that you are in is not the you itself. So the form is never the thing itself. So man is not his flesh. Okay. So when it says form is never the object or the concept, meaning in the properties attributed an object or concept through a valid action or ritual known as divinity. Therefore, all forms is fictional. So flesh invalid forms existing in law are being, which is a person, a species, animal, a plant, a notion, and a thing, right? And with a valid form has no existence in law. So a person without a title has no valid form. Regular person. You see what I'm saying? Persons wear titles in order to empower themselves to do things, right? So when you start reading these canons, it'll start making a lot of sense to you about a thing. Any absence, mistake, or error of an action or a ritual associated with a form shall render it effective, obligated, or null to the extent of servitude and deficiency in accordance with these canons. And such claims as a length of existence, custom, consent, and first claim have no effect in limiting any defectiveness of form. Form derived through action of a ritual, contrary to the precepts of a valid canon, is therefore a reprobate, suppressed, and not to be revived. Okay, now, person. Person is a 16th century CE created word, but falsely claimed from the 6th century CE being of property rights. Form of property rights, right? And title enclosing certain characteristics and appearances. Order life forms. So, higher order life form is using a person to identify itself, formed through a valid entry in a register record on a roll, meaning somebody a name with a person through a registration of a court road or to the county court in the district. The highest role defining the greatest right and type of person is the great role of the divine, the great registry, and the public record. The word person comes from the Latin word meaning a mask. So your person is a mask, right? It's a character they put over you that resembles who you are. It's not you. Just like the flesh resembles the spirit, but it's not really the spirit. Character or part of a play. So person is the one that's playing in the game. He's the leasee, he's the buyer, he's the account element of fraudulent treaties known as corporate at the end of the 16th century, whereby all persons were, or by their nature, were falsely claimed to be subject to the jurisdiction of the Roman court, also known as the Vatican. The invention of persons, right, from the 16th century enabled the enclosure of the bodies of living beings and the alien of traditional and natural with them with person being viewed as a type of property which could be sold or purchased, surrendered, or entered into records in a type of right now today. Huh? Don't they treat you like you property that could be sold? Well, you know it. Now they got a warrant out for you for that institution, or somebody put something in there, and now they making a claim on you. Now they did something with your property and sold stuff without your consent. They using your property now. They telling you you got to give us the baby because the property is associated with the being that it's connected to. So if anybody's claiming the person, they can take the property. So when you understand that it's a piece of property which could be sold, purchased, so when you understand what it is, you know that it's. But they got you. They didn't put a spell on you using rituals and forms to make you believe that of that name stayed on that record represents you. So running around with a mask on, not knowing you got on the mask, and you're not recognizing what's going on. The existence of a valid and proper person. Following 9 elements: script, actor, relation, binding, part, action, record, and title. Principle, including but not limited to the creator, the trustor, or the general executor, and the holder of the original authority is the term used to define the one empowered to direct the actions of the actor, agent, or trustee in a. Let's read that again. So the author, also known as the principal, including but not limited to the creator or the general executor, and the holder of the original authority is the term used to define the one empowered to direct the actions, right, of the actor, the agent, or the trustee in accordance with the express script, right? So that would be you. And the script, also known as a deed, a covenant. So when you get a contract, you're receiving a covenant, a promise to pay, a binding agreement, right? These are deeds, or statute is the term used to define the instrument of empowerment by which the author, the principal, directs the actions of his person, the actor, the agent, for, right, the benefit of another party known as the beneficiary. And the actor, also known as the persona or the interpreter or the agent, right, or trustee is the term used to define the one who consents to perform the part identity in accordance with the script. So when you sign, the man or the woman who as surety, right? Stop right there, right? I'm finna, right here, where we at? All right, so the actor, the person, or the interpreter, the one who's supposed to interpret the agreement on behalf of this person, or the agent or the trustee, uses the one who signs on behalf, right? In accordance with the script, in accordance with the agreement or the statute, right? Relation also being the trust between the author and the principal, the author principal to the act agent. So the trust is the relationship between the principal and his agent, right? His actor. So the principal being the key factor, and then the actor being the agent acting in relation with the principal, expressed as being either a general, public, or special private appointment, whereby and where only three types of relationships are being possible. The first relationship with the actor and the principal, or the author. The author could be the spirit, and the principal could be his flesh, right? Or the author could be the flesh, and the principal could be the name, and the agent can be the man acting under the name, right? Binding, also known as agreement, is the term used to define the formal binding of the actor, the agent, right, to the performance of the part, the identity, the principle, right? And consent as to the direction of the author, the principle, right? In accordance with the script, the deed, such as a vow, oath, or acknowledgement, or a seal or a signature on a paper, right? So binding, also known as agreement, right? So when you bind yourself and you agree to do something, which makes you signing to do it, right? Is the term to define a formal binding of an actor. So if you are acting through your person, and your person is the one signing, and you are the one behind that person, and you sign and make your person put his signature on something, right? Then you will be the one signing on behalf of the person or the identity that's consenting to the principal authority, meaning the authority issued by the script, the deed, such as your vow or your oath. And then the part is also known as the identity. And the beneficiary is the term used to define the fictional mass or the character to be supported by the actor, the agent, at the direction of the author or the principal, right? So the part will be your legal person or the mass, right? Or the character that's supported by the agent, the man acting on behalf of the character to support the character in being able to do what the character is responsible to do. All right, action, also known as personification, is the actions of the actor, the agent, right? Performing, supporting the part, right? Which is the identity, as stated in the script. So whatever the script is saying, if the amounts is due to the person, then you're supporting that person. You're acting on behalf of the person to support him in accordance to the script, right? Record of events, also known as personification, being the formal written memorial of events of the creation of birth, right? Of a person through previous elements of authority, script, actor, relation, binding part, and action, and title to beneficial interest being the property of the person, right? Created by extract and acknowledgement of the record of events, right? So it's saying that the record of events is the birth, the creation of the birth. That's the first event creation of the person, right? And all other elements from that in relation to that created all these binding parts. It created the author of that person. It created scripts under that person. It created an actor under that person. It created relations with that person, binding agreements with that person, acting as parts with that person, and actions you have to take on behalf of that person. All right? And it gives you the right to any property being created in the name of that person to take property or acknowledgement of those events in order to hold and claim a beneficial interest against the person, right? They take it out. Level 6 higher order life forms may associate to more than one person, associated with more than one trust. However, a level 6 higher order life form may not logically, legally, or lawfully be the holder of a beneficial interest beneficiary at the same time as acting in the capacity of a trustee, the actor. Okay? So it's saying you're not supposed to be the beneficiary at the same time as acting as trustee. The holder of the title for beneficial interest beneficiary at the same time as acting in the capacity of an executor, authority, author, or principal. See what I'm saying? So it's saying you can't act in those same capacities at the same time. Either you're acting for beneficial interest or you're acting as executor or control over the principal, right? All persons may be categorized according to 3 possible types of relation, being author principal, to actor agent being first person, self is second person, and another third person not known. So you got 3 persons, all right? The actor, the agent is the first person, self, and then the second person, another, and third person not known, okay? So first person, also known as a natural person, in propria persona, is when a competent mind of a coordinate level 6 higher order life form as author, principal, appoints, records, and publishes themselves by special private appointment as actor agent by some solemn binding agreement. Therefore, a first person or natural person possesses natural title to the right of beneficial use associated with first person, synonymous with pronouns as I, thou, me, my, mine, myself, we, us, ours, and ourselves. And so, hold up. Wait a minute. Let's read this again. Let's read this one more time. So, first person, also known as a natural person, in propria persona, is when a competent mind of a coordinate level, 6 higher order life form, as author the principal, right? The mind records and publishes themselves by special private appointment as actor agent. So when you claim to be the agent of the principal by some solemn binding agreement, trust, contract, where you have became an agent and you've recorded that, right? Therefore, first person, natural person. So that's also a DBA, right? natural title to rights beneficial use associated with first person synonymous with pronoun. So now a second person, also known as an artificial person, right, is when a coordinate level 6 higher life order form as author principal, as the author of the principal, you appoint another coordinate level higher order form by special or private appointment as the actor, the agent, hire an attorney. So when you go and you are the actor, the agent over your being, and you allow somebody else to act as actor, agent over your being, that puts you in second person. Okay? By some solemn binding agreement, right? Thus, a second person or artificial person is synonymous with pronouns as you, yours. That's why when you go to court, they always want you to what? They always want you to represent yourself. That's an oxymoron, because you can't represent yourself as an artificial person. All right, because representing yourself would mean you're saying you're an artificial person, right? Then you got third person, also known as a legal person, right? So you got an artificial person, right? And you got a legal person, or what they call a statutory person, or surrogate person, created through records on a roll, created through the birth certificate, right? Is when an author principal, the man or the woman, is hidden and not known, and the level 6 higher order life form fails to properly express any competency in propria personam, first person, or second person, author principal, prior to the commencement of any interpersonal intercourse, right? In the third person, the flesh in the body of a living level 6 higher order life form is mistaken and presumed to be by default the person, and the statutes of law or the rules of law of the courts as script D, and the judge or the magistrate of the author principal. Thus, a third person or a legal person is synonymous with such pronouns as he, she, it, they, them, their, theirs, and themselves. So what it's saying is basically, it's like when you go to court and you are the first person, right? The natural person who has to express that you are the natural man. You make an appearance to enter into the case, or to intervene on the case as the natural person over the legal record. If you don't do that, then they put you in third person. They make you the legal person, the statutory person, or the surrogate person, right? And that's when you're hidden. That's when the true you, the real you, the first person or the second person should be an agent or trustee or somebody acting in that capacity. All that is hidden. So you're not acting as a trustee. You're not coming in your first person, being recognized because you didn't enter into the record in your own name to be recognized. So then they put you in this person. They put you in third person. And in that person, you are hidden. And you are only considered to be the record. That's what it's saying. What it's saying right here. It says you are hidden and you're not known. The higher level 6 order life form, which is you, fails to be properly expressed any competence in propria personam, in first person. So if you're not claiming your rights over the person to anybody holding that person or records of that person, or second person, you're not claiming to be agent, trustee, or none of that in relation prior to the commencement of any interpersonal intercourse with the person. In third person, the flesh and blood body of a living level 6 higher order life form is mistaken. So when you don't do what you're supposed to do, they mistake you for the person. And it's presumed to be by default the person. Look, I can't make it up. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to know this. That's why they don't want you to know these laws. All right? So when you don't step up and do what you're supposed to do, then they presume you as the person. and the statutes of the law or the rules of the court as script. So they treat you as a deed. They treat you, I'm telling you, they treat you as a third person, as an entity, right? It says a person may possess greater or lesser authority, power, and rights than another. All authority or power of a person is inherited from the limits of power and authority of a person. The authority of the author principle, right? And the author principle is said to inherit these rights, authorities, and powers of the father and the mother, unless specifically derived by will, or an author principle may be granted certain rights, authorities, and powers by law of a higher estate or trust to which they belong or rightfully possess beneficial interest. Now listen to this. All persons may be categorized and ranked according to 4 possible levels of authority, power, and rights, from the greatest to the highest power and authority, the lowest and the least power and authority being in the order of rank: divine, true, superior, and inferior. It says a divine person is a purely divine spirit person created through a valid record and enrollment in the great roles of a divine person associated with a divine trust formed in accordance with a sacred covenant, pactum, right? By the divine creator into a form of a divine spirit. Energy and rights are conveyed, right? So it's basically like you being born alive, and the spirit of the creator being conveyed upon this flesh, giving it divinity, the ability to live, to be alive, right? That's called divine person. A true person is formed, right, where your spirit, the divine spirit within you, was given divine rights, right? In order to have a divine form and spirit and energy and rights to be conveyed into that divine form, which will be the flesh, right? And then it says the true person is a form attributed to the true trust form when an associated divine trust already exists. So in order for a true trust to exist, there already has to be a divine trust with the creator, giving the spirit a divine separate existence of its own. So when the creator gives that spirit its own divine existence, then a true trust can be created once that entity has its own existence, right? Now check this out. Now it says, and there is a lawful conveyance of divine rights of use and purpose, known as divinity, to a true trust associated with then the birth in the existence of a living level 6 higher order life form in a physical version of a great road, like when they record the birth certificate of a society of one heaven in a valid live born record, right? And a true person can never be claimed or argued as higher than a divine person, right? From which it derives its authority. So when you born, right, that means that a divine person was created by the divine creator, and divine rights was bestowed upon that divine person, and a true trust was created, and a fleshly child was born, right? And that child was given a divine birthright by a divine live birth record. So your birth record has more weight to it. We ain't talking about the birth certificate, we talking about the live birth record. It has more weight to it than what you think. Okay. A superior person is a form attributed to a superior trust when associated true trust already exists, and there is a lawful conveyance of first rights of use of purpose known as reality, right? To a superior trust associated with the birth and the service or agreement associated with a membership of a living level higher order life form to a valid Uticadian society. So when we became a citizen of the state of Illinois, when they issued me a birth certificate from that Uticadian society, which is a Roman type society based off Roman. We under Roman rule. We using English and language. So we under a Eudicadian society. And when that Eudicadian society issues a living being, an associated membership, citizenship, record that's been recorded in the court rolls with that society. Okay, that's what this is talking about. And the authorized member roles of the society, the courts. The superior person can never be claimed or argued as higher than the true person, right? From which it derives its authority. And an inferior person is a Roman person. And this is a form attributed to a resting Roman trust. And this is the lowest standing and the weakest of all valid forms, right, of persons. An inferior person is only valid when the man or the woman in possession of a superior person, and a true person consents to the enrollment of their name in one or more roles. An inferior person can never be valid, legitimately, logically, legally, lawfully, or morally claimed or argued to be a superior person. So what it's saying that when you allow a Western Roman court to register your name in a lower in a system as a person, right? Look what it said right here. An inferior person is only valid when a man or a woman of a superior person, meaning you or me, consents to enrollment of their name in one or more roles. An inferior person, so when we consent to our name being registered, right? When we consent to the registration of our name, then a Roman person is created, right? And this Roman person, right, is the lowest form of persons. So that's why people register their name and do something to their name or something like that, because that's the lowest form of registration, right? And it's legally, lawfully, and morally claimed and argued, right, to be inferior. Check it out. All right, then you get juridic persons like judicial and all these different types of persons. Like I'm gonna go down some though, right? I gotta read this though. Let me read this. All right. All right, excluding divine personalities, all persons are formed through the physical entry, enrollments, and recording with a valid role in association to valid registers, listing the information concerning property rights, trusts, estates, and funds. True persons are created by redemption of a member, number, and enrollment in a physical great roll of a society of one heaven, are extinguished upon a physical death of a flesh form associated with a true trust, with a divine right of use returned to the associated divine trust, and a superior person created by enrollment in a valid role of a Eudicadian society are extinguished upon the extinction of the associated true trust and the arbitration of membership to associated Eudicadian society, or the suspicion or revocation, right? Like when they be in parts of society. Juridic person created by the enrollment in a valid role of a Eudicadian society and the extinguishment of in accordance with their own statutes and superior competent authority. No juridic person, excluding society juridic persons, formed and named in accordance with the pact, right, may exist for more than 100 years. Inferior persons created in a valid enrollment, such as legal persons. So when you know that they made us inferior persons, right? And we wouldn't know that. Why? Because we don't know these laws. They hid these laws from us. They put up all this hope, faith, and belief all around us, and then basically rule over us, right? So an inferior person is a legal person. They all gave us all a legal person as our legal identity. So they made each man and woman name a legal person. and put you in the lowest status to be identified. So they're identifying you as a legal person through your legal name, also known as a statutory person. That's why when you go to court and you ask them what laws, they say this is statutory law, because they're dealing with statutory and legal persons and surrogate persons, or extinguished upon the fulfillment of the purpose and the intent, or upon exposure of fraud. So once you record something and expose the fraud, that person don't exist no more. When the true man steps forward and makes the claim, or material breach of agreement, or presentment of a person of a higher standing and authority. Come on, man. You can't do that. You can't present yourself as in a higher standing and authority over that record. It says a failure to recognize a valid and properly constructed informed person, meaning you got to form your person. You can't be identifying as that. You got to form that person correctly, right? Failure to recognize a valid and properly constituted informed person. So this to any of them. If I make myself an agent, an officer of my agency, and you don't recognize that, or the claim of a superior jurisdiction of an inferior person over a superior person, or a true person cannot ecclesiastically, logically, legally, lawfully, and sensibly be sustained, and is therefore without force and effect with any subsequent judgment, null and void ab initio from the beginning, right? They can't, when you standing in your proper position, no other person can't stand over you. When you standing in agency, a natural person attributed to less than a Homo sapien, right, or higher order life form is automatically null and void. So if they got you on file at the bank as a legal person, that's null and void. They got you on file anywhere and they identifying you as a legal person, that's null and void, right? Or artificial person, or an animal, a notion, or a thing is an unnatural, and it's an unlawful act. They ain't never supposed to identify no man or no woman less than being either Homo sapien or being or being something of a higher order, a higher life. When they put you down as artificial to a thing, a person, they violating your rights. That's unlawful. Let me see. Go past some of this stuff. I don't want to read everything. I just want to go to certain things. I'm gonna read one more thing from her, and then I'm gonna get on up out of her. Let me see. Let me find it. What does it say? By definition, an author cannot deny the existence of validity of their own documents without causing injury and accepting all liability. Therefore, the return of any document to its author with a perfect reply attached and sealed to the reverse side cannot be denied or ignored without the author causing injury and accepting all liability. Hold on, let's go back up here. I gotta read this. A general document is valid document issued and registered in the great registry and public record of a Uticadian society that is not issued by an ordinary superior or supreme official person. An inferior document is any document issued by an inferior person, such as a Roman person or an inferior juridic person. No inferior document can never be allowed to be claimed superior over a general document, ordinary document, superior document, or supreme document. All documents, whether valid or invalid, have at least one observed and reverse with a primary and the most ancient purpose of the front and not verse, as the widow transmitting the purpose and the message of the document, whilst to reverse provides the widow transmitting any formal reply or rebuttal. This physical alteration of any document, whether it is valid or invalid without permission of the original author, is an injury that shifts any liability to the party who alters the document without permission. By definition, the author cannot deny the existence or the validity of their own document. So if an author issues you an instrument saying an amount is due to you, and you were to accept and attach something to it to accept that amount and return it, he can't deny paying the amounts that he promised, right? This is what it says. It says, by definition, the author cannot deny the existence and the validity of their own documents without causing injury and accepting all liability. Therefore, right, and that goes both ways. The return of any document to its author with a perfected reply attached and sealed to the reverse side cannot be denied or ignored without the author causing injury or accepting all liability. When a separate document is attached and sealed to the reverse side of the first document, then a reply is perfected in accordance with the most ancient traditions of documents without injury. Man, listen. Right. Come on, man. I can't make it up. I mean, you can take that however you want to take it, but that's telling you something. All right, let's go past the land. We're going to go past that. Go past that. I'm going to show you some stuff. It got a lot of fire up there. Okay, we're going to go past this too. Let me see. Go past this. Okay, so goods. We ain't gonna go over goods. I just went over goods earlier. I'm gonna go something else. Give me a minute. I gotta go down a little bit, y'all, to find the real juice that I want to find up here. Go down. Blind person. Go past that. Now look at this. Now it says, as a matter of fact, let me go back up here to divine person, make sure I ain't missing nothing. All right, so check this out. So it says a true person is recorded and enrolled in the great rolls of a true person associated with a true trust, registered with the great registry in the public record. So we know that the true person is the flesh. The true, the true person is the divine person. The true trust is the flesh. The registry with the registry, the recorder of deeds, and form when the associated divine trust and a divine person already exists, and there is a lawful conveyance of divine rights of use and purpose known as divinity to the true trust associated with the birth of the existing living life. All right, and then it says a true person of a true trust form when the executors and the administrators of an associated divine trust agree to give, grant, and convey divine rights of use, also known as divinity, into a true trust, right? And the executors and administrators could be mom and dad. A true person can only be formed when an associated divine trust already is in existence. A true person is owned by a true trust, which is in turn is administered by the executor of the trust, being the mind. Listen, man, look, check this out. Look, I can't make it up, y'all. It says a true person is owned by a true trust, right? Which in turn is administered by the executor of the trust, being the mind and the brain, and the trustee being the flesh, in accordance with the sacred covenant. No other lesser trust, lesser inferior person can claim ownership, liens, seizures, enforcement, or other unlawful acts against a true person. So it's telling you that the mind and the brain, your mind and your brain is the executor and the administrator, and your flesh is the trustee that's doing the work. All right? And nobody should be able to come between you and your trust. When a valid registered number from a great register is redeemed and recognized in recognition of the existence of a divine person, the associated immortal spirit consents and agrees in true trust to ensure the society of one heaven administers the rights and obligations of the members as a trustee. Proof of existence of a true person and a true trust is through the existence of a valid, live, born record as a divine immortal spirit being expressed into flesh vessel. So if you got a live birth certificate, if you got a certificate of live birth, what? I can't make it up, y'all. See, they never wanted you to know why they had to create those certificates. Why? Because they had to follow these laws in order to create a society. In order for them to create a society, they had to get the laws from somebody. So where did they get the rules, the regulations, the laws, the words? Where did they get it all from? All right, well, we're reading it. They got it from these canons, right? In any live birth record with an inferior Roman system, which issues a unique number for the flesh of a baby, may also be taken as proof of the existence of a true trust. An inferiority of any inferior Roman person as proof of existence of the flesh is proof of the existence of a divine immortal spirit. What? What? Come on, man. What? So you walking around as a divine immortal spirit. And the live birth record is proof of your divine immortal existence. And it stands over any other trust as executor, administrator of that person, of that other trust created after you were born. Okay? They tell you, oh, it don't mean that. Yes, it do. The birth certificate is just a birth. No, it ain't. Stop lying. Check it out. A superior person is recorded and enrolled in the great rolls of the registry of a Eutychadian society associated with superior trust registered with the great registry in the public record of a valid Eutychadian society informed when the associated true trust and a true person already exist, and there is a lawful conveyance of the first rights of use purpose known as reality, and a superior trust associated with the birth of the service of agreement associated with a member of a true trust to a valid Eutychadian society, right? So hold up. I thought I just, let me go down. Go down. All right, so look, let's read this. So an inferior person or a Roman person is the person first created through recording and enrollment in the roll, defined by the resting Roman statutes of law. or a Roman body of law, or associated court tribunals, or forums. Inferior persons are the lowest standing and the weakest of all valid forms of persons. An inferior person can never be valid, legitimately, reasonably, logically, legally, lawfully, or morally claimed or argued as superior or superior person. So that's why you notice they all wear hats: attorney, general, uh, uh, Supreme Court judge. They are, now you understand what the hats is for, because they're making their persons have a valid form. If your person doesn't have a valid form, it's considered as inferior, right? So an inferior person, such as a Roman person, is a person created through a legal spell curse system of the former Roman code, and those rebel forces refusing to acknowledge the supremacy of the sacred covenant, right? Whereby such outlaws continue to falsely claim ultimate ownership, not only of the person, but associated flesh, minds, and souls. So you had wicked people that knew these laws and stuff, but they were wicked. So they created a system of, of parasites, to where they was using this information to take people property, put people in debt, use people person against them because they don't know how to claim and control and stuff like that. An inferior person is by very definition inferior to an official person, which is lesser in standing than a true person, which is lesser in standing than a divine person. An inferior person can never be considered superior to a divine person. Therefore, no law based in inferior persons can never be lawfully considered equal or higher than these canons. Now look at this. Every man and woman in higher order spirit is granted a divine person in accordance with the sacred covenant pactum, excluding the conditions of necessity. When a man or a woman willingly chooses to be associated with an inferior person, such as an inferior Roman person or a Roman slave, such demonstration of distortion of reality, lack of ability of reasoning and logic, is grounds to declare such man and woman through their inferior person as incompetent. So you are incompetent if you act as your inferior person when you're superior to that person and you got the rights to control it. But you choose to be inferior. You choose to be under the person in which you have control of. Come on, man. Stop playing, boy. I can't make it up. Where a man or a woman through their inferior person is lawfully declared incompetent, the society of one heaven or a nominated adjudicating society shall have lawfully assumed full power as guardian and executor or administrator for the inferior person. Man, so they step in your role as executor and administrator of your inferior person. Man. I can't make it up, y'all. I can't make it up. So it says supreme juridic persons is recorded in role in a great role of a divine person associated with a supreme divine trust, rested in the great registry in the public records of one heaven as an aggregate of 100 divine persons, as body of a supreme trust, when such divine person shares similar characteristics and no longer owns a living flesh vessel. Let me go down some real quick. I gotta find something real. I'm looking for something. I think it's all types of persons, y'all. It's all type of persons. Looking for a specific chapter. Oh, let's see. I just want to show y'all, I'm looking for one specific part. I'm gonna get on up off here. And see, this will help you understand what the tangible property rights, the interest, because you're a divine immortal spirit and you operating in true trust and divine trust and different things like that. But when you're not conscious and aware and awake of your divinity, your divine self, then you give away all property rights and you're not understanding certain things, right? General sense, a debt is a fictional form representing an obligation by one person to do to another, one or more persons, whether to perform an act or to make payment of a certain currency. Just an effective, blah, blah, blah. Income. I ain't looking for none of this. See, it talks about everything. Anything you want to know. See right here? When a person dishonors an instrument properly formed and registered, then a deed of dishonor may be issued. When a deed of dishonor properly formed is dishonored, then a deed of protest may be issued. When a person has dishonored three perfected instruments, they have then fully consented and accepted any attached liability, even if the consent and acceptance has been made orally or in writing. So if you do three documents of dishonor, the next anything you attach to it is considered as accepted. When a person uses any property of a trust or an estate without permission, they automatically assume the relationship with that trust or estate as beneficiary, right? And accept full responsibility attached to the use of that property. So that's what happened to you when you use the trust or the estate, and right, and you're not using it within uh, the correct position, then you end up accepting all liability. A person who omits mistakes or errors in trespass on the use of the property of an estate or a trust without express permission is automatically freed of any liability obligations as fully liable. So, like if somebody is administrating on your trust and you send them a notice letting them know that if they continue that they're going to be attached to the trust as a beneficiary and to carry all the liabilities of the trust, right? That's basically for false administration or whatever they're doing. Any executor or administrator of their trustees. See? So wait a minute. What does it talk? What do you mean? So we supposed to be administrating the trustees? Wait a minute. See, you see why they don't want you to read this? Any executor or administrator of their trustees that refuse to act within their obligations and except when an obligation is returned upon admission of mistake or non-consent as surety is guilty of gross breach of duty and automatically becomes personally liable for any and all associated liabilities. See that? Can't make it up. Any liability created in fraud automatically becomes the personal obligation of the person who committed the fraud. So if you commit a fraud or if you do something wrong, then you automatically become liable for it. Currency, let me go back down. See, it go into all of it, negotiable instruments, but I ain't looking for none of that though. Not right now. I'm trying to find one section. I must have passed it up, y'all, or something, because I don't know. These canons kind of long too. Abstract. Okay, so conveying. All right, the creation of a valid form through conveyance, conveyancing is when ownership of some right, title, or property is transferred from one person to another by a form of a valid instrument in accordance with these canons. Right now, in order to transfer title or ownership of any right, title, or property, an instrument must identify the nature of the intent as whether a conveyance is permanent for some financial consideration grant or without financial consideration donate, or temporary with some financial consideration assigned or without financial consideration delegate, and the word appropriate to convey an intention and form an instrument appropriate for the intended conveyance. The words give, grant, convey, assign, set over, and transfer are indicative of an intent to presently pass the title. A conveyance is only valid when the property rested in the great rest of the Judicaean society. Therefore, all conveyance of property, not property rested, is null and void from the beginning. So basically what it's saying is that you got to register it. You got to register the transfer of the title. When you transfer property from one person to another, it has to be recorded upon the books of the great register of a Judicaean society. So that means you got to go record the transfer, record the conveyance, record the assignment, okay, in order for title to pass. Okay. I'm trying to find some, but if I can't find it here in a minute, I'm getting on up off here. I've been strolling. This thing kind of long. You know, they got a section in here called man, they say, man, this is powerful. See this right here? It says the word public in the context of public law comes from the Latin word publico, meaning confiscation, management of property under the custody of mature and adult men, custodians, right? Hence, the word public literally means the management of rights or property for the benefit of another. Valid public law is therefore equivalent to trust law and vice versa. In the absence of the proper trust law, there can be no public law. So basically, when you're dealing with the public, you operating in trust. And what they do is they basically exactly what it's saying they do, right? Let me go down. Yeah, there's some good stuff right here, but I ain't none of this stuff what I'm looking for, right? I mean, all that stuff good, but I was looking for. Yeah, I guess I can't find it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, and because as you can see, this thing is pretty. And a lot of this stuff is repetitive. If you see a lot of this stuff, it's a lot of the same stuff. I think this is some of what I was looking for right here. This is what I was looking for. Cesta KV Trust. A Cesta KV Trust, also known by several other, uh, I don't know how to pronounce that word, such as term of life or years, or fiat commissary trust, or foreign citizen trust, or secret trust, is a quasi-form, pseudo-form of trust entry under Henry the on one or more presumptions, including but not limited to one or more persons pursuing wards, infants, idiots, lost or abandoned at sea, and therefore assumed, presumed dead after 7 years. Additional presumptions by which such a trust may be legally formed were added in the latest statutes to include bankruptcy, incapacity, mortgages, and private companies. So basically, they give us a trust. They know we don't know what it is, and then when we don't claim or do something in reference to the trust being created for us within 7 years, it's considered as abandoned, right? In the term of evidential history of the form of the Cesta KV Trust, the first Cesta KV Trust formed were through an act of Henry the Eighth of England in 1540, and after wholly corrupted, whereby the poor people of England, after having all their homes, goods, and wealth seized in 1535, under the guise of a small religious estate of whatever 200, were granted the welfare commonwealth benefit of the Cesta KV use, or simply an estate with which to live, to work, and to benefit via a written will. And in 1666, Westminster and the ruling classes passed the infamous Proof of Life Act, also called the Cesta KV Act, whereby the proof and disenfranchised that had not proving a windmaster in the courts that they were alive, were henceforth to be declared dead in law, and therefore lost abandonment and their property to be managed in their absence. Repugnant act, which remains in force today, is the birth of Mudea and the paraphernalia in honoring the dead, and West Ministry under Queen Anne extended the provisions of proof of life in Cestui Que Vie, extending the use of such structures ultimately for corporate and other franchise purposes. This wicked, profane, and completely sacredless act in direct defiance to all forms of Christian moral and rule of law has remained a cornerstone of global banking and financial control for the 21st century. And in 1796, King George III, duty was applied to estates pure via for the first time. And the amendment to the nature of wills that if a person under the estate Cestui Que Vie did not make proper will, then such property would be granted to the executors and the administrators. So basically, the executors and administrators are our state governments. They are the higher administration of executors and administrators, but we are all administrators. We all have the rights to administrate once we reach a certain age, but they are the highest administrators. So when we don't do what we're supposed to do over the estates, then everything goes to them for their administration for the estate's benefit. So a lot of our property, parents, grandparents, is being administered by the state for the state benefit rather than us benefiting from it, right? In the terms of eventual history of the operation and any form of relief or remedy associated with the Cestui Que Vie Trust, taking into account all statutes referring to Cestui Que Vie prior to 1540 are deliberately fraud in proof of the illegitimacy of the Windmaster statutes. The first act outlining Cestui Que Vie trust is deliberately hidden under the claimed statutes of the region of King Richard III in 1483, whereby an act still in force states that all conveyance and transfers and use of property is good, even though a purchaser may be unaware, it is effectively under the Cestui Que Vie use, subject to the Cestui Que Vie trust. The act also gives the vague and challenged path of relief that if one is of complete mind, not an infant, and not under financial duress, then any property under the Cestui Que Vie trust is rightfully theirs for use. And second, the act outlining the Cestui Que Vie trust is deliberately hidden under the region of Henry VII in 1488, permitted lords to render any attempt by the people classed as wards to demonstrate their freedom, unless that such lord may use writs and other devices to force such people back into being compliant wards, poor slaves. The only remedy under this act was if wards demonstrated the waste of the Lord as to the property and energy seized from the poor, ignorant white slave, right? Because the slaves was white. And third, outlining the operation of the Cestui Que Vie, only hidden in the time as the state were one who was knowledgeable of the Cestui Que Vie slavery system could, between the ages of 18 and 20, seek to recover property under the Sesta KV and cease to be a slave. However, the same act made law that after 20 years, the remedy for such revocation was no longer available, despite the fact that the existence of the Sesta KV trust is denied, and Windmaster and banks are sworn to lie, obstruct, hide at all costs the existence of the foundation of the global banking slavery. In terms, right, of essential elements concerning Sesta KV trust, a Sesta KV trust may only exist for 70 years, being the traditional accepted life expectancy of the estate, and beneficiaries under estates may be either a beneficiary or a Sesta KV trust. When a beneficiary loses direct benefits of any property of a higher estate trust on their behalf, they do not own the Sesta KV trust and are only the beneficiaries of what the trustee of the Sesta KV trust chooses to provide to them. And the original purpose and function of the Sesta KV trust was to form a temporary estate for the benefit of another because some event, state of affairs, or conditions prevented them from claiming their status as living, competent, and present before a competent authority. Therefore, any claim, history, statutes, or arguments that deviate in terms of the origin, and function of the Sesta KV trust as pronounced by these canons is false and automatically null and void. The trust corpus created by the Sesta KV is also known as the estate, from whom the Latin word estato literally means by virtue of decree, statute, or judgment. However, as estate is held in temporary, not permanent trust, the corporate person as beneficiary is entitled only to equitable title and the use of the property rather than legal title, and therefore ownership of the property, right? Only the corporation, also known as the body corporate, estate, and trust corporate of the Sesta KV trust possesses valid legal personality. The property of an estate created through a temporary testamentary trust may be regarded as under the Sesta KV use by corporate persons, even if another name or description is used to define the type of trust or use. Therefore, a Sesta KV use is not a person, but the right, and therefore the form of property. So it's a form of property. Prior to the first century, Sesta KV Trust Act of 1540, Henry VIII declared the first Sesta KV type estate with an act of supremacy, which created the Crown Estate. In the 1604, 70 years later, James I of England modified the estate as the Crown Union, Union of Crowns. By the 18th century, the Crown was viewed as a company. However, by the start of the 19th century, around 1840 onwards, upon the bankruptcy of the company, it became the fully private Crown Corporation controlled by the European private banking family. Since 1551, there has been a second series of Sesta KV estates concerning the property of persons and the rights which migrated to the United States for administration, including in 1651 Acts for Settlement of Ireland, 1651 through 52, which introduced the concept of settlement, enemies of the state, and restriction of the movement in states of emergency. And in 1861, Emergency War Powers Act. 1861 and 1931, the Emergency Relief and Construction Act of 1931 through 1932, and in 2001, in the Patriot Act of 2001, right? Since 1591, there has been 3 series of Sesta KV states concerning property of souls and ecclesiastical rights, which migrated to the United States for administration. So all these laws was what? Came over to the United States, right? To the U.S. It's written in the canons. They can't deny it. It's written in the canons. It says by 1815, in the bankruptcy of the Crown and the Bank of England by the Rothschilds, for the first time, the Sesta KV Trust of the United Kingdom became asset placed in private banks, effectively becoming private trust of a fiat commissary trust administered by commissioners, guardians from 1835 and the Wills Act. These private trusts have been also considered secret trusts whose existence do not need to be divulged. So the government been lying to you. They say, oh, there ain't no secret trust. You Google right now, they say, oh, sovereign citizen, the sovereign citizen community saying the secret trust account. Now you know why they putting that stuff out, because they don't want you to know the truth. These are private trusts. We were never supposed to even figure this out. We were never supposed to even figure out that we were operating in trust, that the instruments were representing tangible rights and interests. We were never supposed to figure none of that stuff out. They trying their best to keep us in the control, to get us to operate and back into being the person again, so that we don't realize our superior rights and titles that we have, which is equivalent to what they have. You see what I'm saying? They only able to do the things they do from the standpoint they do because they're operating from a higher standard of trust as trustees, right? From 1917-18, with the enactment of the Sedition Act, of Trading with the Enemy Act in the United States and through the United Kingdom, the citizens of the Commonwealth in the United States became effectively enemies of the state and aliens, which in trust converted the fiat commissary private sacred trust to a foreign citizen private international trust. So that's why it's considered as a foreign citizen trust. In 1931, the Roman International Settlement for the control of associated private central banks around the world. Upon the deliberate bankruptcy of most countries, private central banks were installed as administrators, and the global Sesta KV Foreign Citizen Trust system was implemented from 1933 onwards. Since 1933, when a child is born in a state, because 3 Sesta KV of real property, any rights as a free, and any rights to be known as a man or a woman, rather than or an animal, by claiming possessing their soul or spirit. That's why they put your feet on the birth certificate, because they want to claim your soul. They want to do rituals on your soul, right? To claim you as property, put spells over you to make you become bound to the record. They doing holy rituals over our birth records, over our souls, and basically hoping that it will induce us to become bound as their property, and that we will operate and be this person. You see what I'm saying? Check it out. Check it out, yo. I can't make it up. Since 1933, upon a new child being born, the executors and administrators, that's our administrators, right? That's administrating and protecting over us, of a higher official entitlements of a child as benefit the trust in the form of a registry number. Don't you got a registry number on your birth certificate? By registering the name, thereby also create a corporate person and denying the child any rights as the owner of real property. Oh, I can't make it up. So they registered your name as property in a system to deny you any rights of ownership, right? Since 1933, when a child born, an executor and administrator of a higher state, known as our state government, knowingly and willingly claimed the baby as chattel to the estate. So they claim the child as property of the estate. That's why when you see on the estate certificate of birth, it says the child's name is. You see what I'm saying? Because they're claiming the child, the born child, as property of the estate, right? Knowingly and willingly claim the baby as chattel to the estate. The slave baby contracts is then created by honoring the ancient tradition of either having the ink impression of the feet of the baby onto the live birth record or a drop of his blood, as well as tricking the parents into signing the baby away through a deceitful legal means on the live birth record. The live birth record, as a promissory note, is converted into a slave bond sold to the private reserve bank of the estate and conveyed into a second separate Sesta KV trust per child owned by the bank. Upon the promissory note reaching maturity and the bank being unable to seize the slave child, the maritime lien is lawfully issued to the salvage. Is monetized as currency issued in series against the Sesta KV Trust. Each Sesta KV Trust, created since 1933, represents one of the crowns representing the three claims of property of the Roman code, being the real property, personal property, and ecclesiastical property, and the denial of any rights to men and women other than those chosen as loyal members of the society and as executors and administrators. The three Sesta KV trusts are then specifically denial of rights of real property, personal property, and ecclesiastical property. For most men and women correspond exactly to the three forms of law available to the gala of the Bar Association courts. The first form of law is corporate commercial law, is effective because the first Sesta KV trust. The second form of law is the maritime and trust law, is effective because of the second Sesta KV trust. And the third form of law is the Talmudic and Roman code law, is effective because of the third Sesta KV trust, the baptismal. The birth certificate issued under the Roman law represents a modern equivalent to a settlement certificate of the century of the 17th century and signifies the holder as a proprietor and effectively a Roman slave. The birth certificate has no direct relationship to the private sacred trust controlled by the private banking network, nor can it be used to force the administration of the state or the nation to divulge the existence of the secret trust. A Sesta KV trust are created as private sacred trusts on multiple presumptions, including the ongoing bankruptcy of certain national estates. They remain the claimed private property of the Roman code bank and therefore cannot be directly claimed or used. Right? So the Sesta KV trust that you think you don't even have access to it. You can't even really even get to it. They form all kind of trusts to put you, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, I can't make it up. While private sacred trusts and private central banks cannot directly address, they are still formed on certain presumptions of law, including claim ownership of the name, the property, and the mind and the soul of an infant, men and women. Each and every man and woman has an absolute right to rebuke and reject such false presumptions as a member of one heaven and holder of their own title. Given the private sacred trust of private central banks are created on false presumptions, when a man or woman makes it clear their live born and claim over their own name, body, and mind, and soul, and any such trust presumptions cease to have any property, right? Let me read it again. Given the private sacred trust of a private central bank are created on false presumption when a man or a woman makes clear their live born record and claim over their own name, body, mind, and soul. Any such trust based on such false presumptions cease to have any property, right? So that means that the property comes back to the actual man. So right now, your property being taken by the corporation. So the trust is taking all your property. Every time you enter in an agreement, you end up having to pay the due balance to the trust. So they got the trustees collecting the trust balance from you instead of collecting it directly from the trust. All right. So when you claim your rights, the property comes back to you. Any administrator or executor that refuses to immediately dissolve a Sister KV trust upon the person establishing their status as competency is guilty of fraud, a fundamental breach of their fiduciary duty regarding their immediate removal and punishment. Why you think they send you to jail, man? You in violation, bro. You're a divine creator. You're a divine essence. You are one of the, man, what the hell? You down here acting as a person? You what? You ain't in control of your property. You ain't the mind and the body over that property? Oh, let the Father get to you, boy. You in trouble. Wait till I go up there and tell them what you've been doing down here. You see what I'm saying? You've been down here clowning, acting like a beast. Huh? But anyway, I'm going to stop right there, y'all. Stop right there. I've been going on for a minute. Okay. Ah, man. I can't make this stuff up. Can't make it up. Shoot. I don't know why you even. Anyway, I just wanted to just come on here and drop some of this science on y'all. What'd you say? Notice airship, loved ones, death certificate. Yeah. Time it takes for one to renew their mind and complete the process. Yeah, always. I'm always dropping good stuff, man. Good science, man. You know, this right here is on a whole nother platform, though. Because this right here is, you know, this is that meat, real. This that real meat. All right. This the stuff they don't want you to know. Okay. But I'm gonna get on up out of it, man. I appreciate all y'all tapping in with me, watching and participating in the live. I will be coming back as time go on with more information, man. But hopefully, this information resonates with you, and that you go back and you do your research on this information and you study this information, man, because this right here these are the laws that they've been using against us. They've been using canon laws. These are the canons. This is where they got all their laws from. And in the canon laws, they even got it written in there that they deceived us, that they did all the stuff that it's telling everything. It's telling all of them. It's telling on the Rothschild. Ain't nothing. It says anything that's hidden in the dark shall be revealed to the light. So everything that's been done has been recorded, man. So they can't get around it. You just got to know how to find it. You got to know how to find the right information. So, like I said, these laws that I'm reading right now stand over them state laws. Those when the state is saying, oh, what the state says that no person can do, that's bull crap. Because when I go to the canon says that a man has a right to do this, and that y'all gonna lie. That it says that y'all bankers lying. It says that all y'all lying. Y'all saying that there is no trust. This right here says that we have three trusts: a divine trust, right? It says that we have a true trust. You see what I'm saying? All these different things saying that there's no way you can't even have a true trust, meaning that you can't even be considered as a living being unless there's a divine trust with the Creator. If there's no trust with the divine Creator, then there's no true existence, meaning there's no true trust. If you truly exist, then a trust exists before this trust was even created. So if you don't even know that, because why they hiding this information from us? They don't want us to know the truth. They don't want us to know the knowledge that was passed down from our ancestors. That they got all the knowledge and hid it. Switched everything up, lied about it, made societies put these laws into the society, because by law, the higher ups, they see, because it's divine powers out here. See, all these governments and stuff, they making you seem like they just in control. No, they have to follow certain laws, rules, regulations too. In order to even run a government, you got to follow certain rules, certain regulations. Everything have to be in place in order for you to have judges. That all that stuff fall up under these canons. Everything that they got, everything that they built, it all came from this. I can't make it up. All of it came from it. Everything that they doing, it comes from these laws right here. Everything from mortgages, contracts, agreements, lenders, everything, and it's all under Roman law. So look, I can't make it. Look, bonds, everything. You if I can't make it up, anything you looking for, and this is just part of the canons. This ain't even all of it. Let me see. Liens, see? All of that. And all of this is dealing with what? Your person, your property, your blessings that you receive from the divine creator, and somebody else is using your property against you, doing things against you in order to put you in bondage and stuff like that. And that's what all this is about. It's about you coming back to a state of consciousness and knowing who you are, being able to know thyself, understanding first person, second person, third person, understanding divine self, higher self, conscious self. You know, you gotta come back into a state of knowing this. And it's gonna take for you to read the right information, like what you see on the screen. You need to be reading stuff like this. You need to be into the canon codes. Y'all need to go to the ecclesiastical canon laws. Y'all need to start reading all of that stuff, because these are the laws and everything that they placed down over us. These are the laws that's governing over everything that we got going on. So if you want to know actually what's happening and how to deal with the system that we living in, you got to go to the source. You got to go back into the source of where it's all at. So you are the executor. You are the executrix over the estate. The estate is the flesh. The flesh was your divine right to acquire goods and services in this spectrum of reality that we live in. You are the executor. You are the one in control of that vessel. And anything generated from it, any records produced from it, all of it belongs to you. And any rights extended from it, any amounts due to it belong to you. And then when you step up in your rightful place and you take your seat and you let the world know that you are the divine being, you are the divine creator and divine, authority over that person, that you have the absolute right over anybody else to use, hold, transfer, receive, and benefit from the use of the person. And nobody other than you gets to use it. And when you gonna step up and if I came over your house right now and I took your social and I took all your information and I started saying, oh, get there, what you time about? Finna go get me a credit card. Y'all finna go do this. You gonna have a fit. You gonna have a fit. You gonna scorn me down, brother Isaiah. You can't do that. You gonna jump down on my head. I stole your identity. I did all this. This my stuff. This my shit. How you gonna use mine? That what you gonna say? Why you ain't declared that to them yet? Huh? Why you ain't told them that yet? Why you still allowing them to treat you inferior and act as executor and executrix or administrator over your stuff? Coming from a higher state when you are the authority for your estate. I can't make it up, man. Hold up. Hold up. Give me a second. I'm gonna see if I can find something real quick. Been on the road. Been on the road, y'all. I'm gonna pull up something else for y'all. We're gonna go over this real quick before I go. I'm feeling good today, man. I ain't been on here like this, you know. I'm gonna go on here and show a little love today. You know, I realized y'all better realize the importance of certain people, man, are very vital and important to everything that's going on, and y'all need to be familiar with who these individuals are. For the well-being of your well-being. Let's get it. Now I'm gonna do this one time now. I did this before. I'm gonna do this again. Okay. So now the law explains series. This is the estate, roles, and the registry, right? Section 3. Hmm. Hello, y'all. Give me a second. I gotta see something real quick. Thought this came to head. No, not what I wanted. I'm looking up something, y'all. Give me a second. Get right to it. Okay, so we're dealing with a quick review on concepts, keys that underpin our ability to recognize the states and roles and registries, right? We'll go past this, all right? So accounting of original sin, the observed uh, imputation that the divine creator as God is a vegetarian, right? Accounting. All right, so account to balance. Sin as a divine debt, right? So when you in sin, you in divine debt, meaning you are in dishonor of something that you said you was gonna do. You gave a word, you said you was gonna be honorable and do something, and you ain't doing it. So that put you in sin. Okay. Uh, and then you got the confession as a divine debt, indulgence, monetization of sin. When you indulge in wrongdoing, then that's considered a sin. So if you sign a contract and you indulge in it wrong, that's considered to be sinful. Elite families secretly claim to be without sin. In the 17th and the 18th century, the elite families created a fake genealogy, upspringing the holy Kundalini to claim themselves as descendants of Mary without sin. And then it shows you all of these different symbols of the elite families claiming to be gods, right? Then you got the Western Roman model, has no way out. Even if you break one layer, the Western Roman model has no escape. The reason that almost 100% of truth and remedy gurus that claim solutions are either lying or wrong is that the Roman system is designed so that there is no way out using original sin as the basis of stealing your right. The system previously argues that you condemned at least 4 times for being a sinner and an idiot, morally bankrupt and delinquent, right? The first strip of your rights, right? Disobedient to God, a persistent sinner. So you first thing you disobeying that divine law. Then you're ignorant. That's another sin. That you are an idiot, incompetent, in knowledge of law. Now tell me this ain't you. This is you all goddamn day. This is you. Yeah. Insolent. That you are without assets, that you don't have no assets. You're basically saying that you don't have no value coming from your person. So nothing that this flesh touches, you don't reap no benefits of it, even though you're the one using it. So basically, you're just giving all your stuff away. All right? Being incompetent, delinquent, that you are negligent to your duties and obligations. You're not performing. You're not reading the scripts. You're not performing under the terms that you're supposed to. You ain't doing under the things that are required by the agreement. The first global financial model based on monetization of sin by making all profits from usury a sin. So when you make profit from using somebody, that's considered as a sin, right? These are all the models. This is how they do it. Bill exchange your money, confession, promise, your promise, indulgence, you indulge in an instrument, and then the commonwealth right. Right? Private bank note, sign it, you promise to work for the note, the birth certificate shares annuity, and the corporate service. You ain't receiving nothing in exchange for nothing you're doing. See? It's a Ponzi scheme. There is no remedy in common law. Right? These are the 4 families that claim to be part of that holy family tree. All right. And this right here, it talks about how these are the places where they destroyed all the history. And these are the persons who destroyed that history. Statues and rolls, records of Henry the 7th and the 8th, Elizabeth, James, and Charles, 1 destroyed. See, they destroyed all these different rolls and records to hide the truth because they never wanted certain information to be given out so that people would know the truth. So in order for them to stay in power to do the things that they've been able to do, they had to destroy stuff to hide it. Okay? Now, in law, your rights and trusts are connected to one or more persons. So when you have certain rights and trust, all your rights will always be connected to a person. So if you have rights in the mortgage, it's because you have rights in the person who the mortgage is in the name of. Okay? So you got to understand that the fact that rights, trust, and person always connect together. The access to rights is the nature of your access to a person. See, it's you, then you got the person, and then your rights, they come through the person. The physical you cannot hold intangible concepts. You can't be a teacher. Can't be none of that. The physical you can't hold tangible concepts, but the person can. See, the real you can't be an account holder on file with T-Mobile, but the tangible, the person can be an account holder. It can be placed on an account. See what I'm saying? The physical you can't be a leasee on an agreement because the physical you can only be a man. But, right, the legal concept of your person can be placed on paper as a leasee. But the real me, I'm me. I can never be a person on paper. I can never be a leasee or buyer or none of those things. I can never be that because I am who I am. I am that I am. I'm me. My person is the buyer. See what I'm saying? And it's through my person that I wear titles. You can't be connected to a likeness of you. Being a person is the same, being a person of the same name. See, you connected to a likeness of you. So you connected to anything that's connected to you, right? You are a multiple person. The physical you is connected to multiple persons. The trust is that any physical you living in modern Western Mormon society will be connected to multiple persons as normal, right? Therefore, anyone that says you are a person in believing you only have one person is either lying or completely misguided on its fact. So if they saying that you just defended and you just one single defendant and that there's not multiple persons connected to the defendant, that's a lie. Because in order for you to be the defendant, you got to be a natural person to even wear the head of a defendant. So it can't be just the defendant, it got to be a defendant and a natural person. See what I'm saying? It's got to be a inmate and a natural person, but we choose to be the inmate. See what I'm saying? Because we don't understand titles, right? See, I got you, the physical you, then it got the taxpayer, it's part of who you are. The driver's license is the licensed driver is part of who you are. You also considered as a federal citizen. They also consider you as a state citizen. These are all persons that you were. You're also a government benefit recipient. See what I'm saying? A person being fictional form. See? So the person is a fictional form. That's why I can wear so many hats. A man can only be a man. A person can wear many hats. A person being fictional form in closing attributes as identity of a man, woman, body politic, assembling, or thing. Person, right, is the trustee or the principal. I, thou, me, mine, myself, we, our. So the person, we, us, our, principal. We, together, agent and principal, right? Beneficiary, agent. You, ye, your, yourself, and yourself, right? So when you're in second person, they speak to you as you. When they talking to you, like when you open up a bank account and it says you are responsible for the obligations on this account. You, they're talking to you in second person. That means that in that person, you are beneficiary, meaning you are the agent. They're treating you as the agent. All right. The first person is the principal. Okay. Now it says that the first person known as a natural person and in propria persona. Second person also known as an artificial person. So juris, one's own right as a beneficiary or as an agent. Juris as agent for the principal. Okay. And then third person is he, she, it, they, them, their, theirs, and themselves. Third person, also known as a legal person or statutory person, segregate person, right? Under the control of another as ward, lunatic, or infant. See what I'm saying? Pro se, short for proseum in rem, a thing. I am a thing. So when you go to court and they say you're acting pro se, you're saying I'm acting as a damn thing. See? Another way to view the third aspects of a person is three roles of a trust as either trustee, principal, beneficiary, agent, or subject, legal person. The person free blogs really has three aspects: person, and three persons, each with certain rights. How the physical you is connected determines only the aspects, but the limited capacity, right? You got first person, that's the man, the principal. And then you got the second person is the artificial character, right? The artificial person, the beneficiary, the agent, trustee. And then the third person is the legal person, the one bound. The proof of the connection to your physical you in the aspects of question in the instrument of trust, right? The person, the principle. The first person is proven by properly executed and recorded deed associated with the trust or certificate of deed if registered in a foreign jurisdiction. So what it's saying is, in order for you to be first person, whatever the deed is that's identifying you as the person, it's basically saying for the first person to stand in place, it has to be proven by properly executing a recorded deed associated with the trust, to where you're associating a certificate of title, ownership, something to the trust, right? Or certificate of deed if registered in a foreign jurisdiction. The second person is proven by properly executed, signed, and recorded letter of appointment, like a certificate of trust, right? Power of attorney or something like that, commission, or certificate of appointment if registered in a foreign jurisdiction. And then the third person is when you is proven by a seal and number certificate corresponding to an entity within the trust registry, such i.e. a birth certificate or a driver's license. So when you're operating in this realm, then you're operating under the birth certificate solely as your identity through driver's license, stuff like that, right? An estate is a valid recorded in a roll, creating a person and associated rights. So when they create an estate, they create a person, and that person has associated rights. An estate is created when a record is duly entered into the enrolled in a special type of registry called the roll. So the roll is the court roll. This is a special roll. This is like an ecclesiastical roll. Okay, it's called a roll. The owner of the roll with roll retains the rights to the legal title, right? And then the appointment of any surrogate trustee as principal, right? And then it is showing you examples. You got the agent. So all of it stemming from the person. So the role of a person is what creates the person, right? And the official role, when it's created, right, is registered as official property in the government's registry, right, pertaining to an official person and property. And from that person is created real property, and then a thing in personal property. The authority to create persons on a road is hierarchical and is based on the underlying structure of property law, adhering to the golden rule of law, ecclesiastical authority. The highest rights to create persons on roads is ecclesiastical, derived by sacred scripture and canons of spiritual bodies with clear formation of law. So this is how they was able to create the birth certificate, because of the same canon laws that I was reading that gives them the rights to do that. right? Legislative authority. The second highest right is legislative authority granted by ecclesiastical body or by a collective law and consent of the people as members, right? Or both. And so when they create the Constitution. And then the lowest right of corporate authority is granted by statute or bylaws of a corporation, and then by consent of members or association, right? So this is the lowest, your corporate authority. Let me see. So that's about, I mean, it goes into a couple of more things. So it explains the difference of exemplification of a document and then authentication, apostille, and then certification. So a lot of times, like when you trying to certify the authenticity of a document or a right to enforce a document, you get it notarized or acknowledged before a notary. And then in order to prove that the notary had the authority at the time when you had the property acknowledged was in authority to act, you'll get a certification of that notary seal with the Secretary of State. And then that will automatically complete the compliance of the instrument. Now the instrument is in full compliance of law and is able to be used and enforced in accordance with the Western name, right? Because you got to understand that the authority to act has to be proven. So when a notary can notarize your document, but how do we know that that notary is really in commission? How do we know if that notary is really, even if they have a seal or whatever, it's always a good idea to go and show and get a certification to make sure that that notary is in good standing with the Secretary of State in order to be in complete compliance. But that's all I wanted to show y'all. Y'all can go and check this out at your own leisure. You can find this. It's pretty much simple. It's the nature and the structure, functions, and importance of registries and rolls. And it's part 3. So you want to go check this out. And you can use this as a study guide, something to help, when you're teaching people and you explain to them roles we play and different things. Document that can be very beneficial in helping people get a better understanding if they're visual learners. I thank you again for tuning in. For everybody that tuned in, again, if this is your first time tapping in, make sure you hit the subscribe button. So whenever I decide to live and share information, you'll be privileged to that information. Y'all stay tuned. If you want to learn more about different topics and different things, make sure you sign up for our YouTube page. You can also join us in, we have a Telegram group, and you can also become a member at any given time. And once you become a member, you get access to other videos and information that has never been publicly shown. Because I do have tons of information that has never even touched the surface of the public. It's only internal within Building Better Minds within our program. So if you're not internally within that program as a member, you're not getting access to that internal information. You only got access to what I put online, and that's on YouTube, and that's limited because all the real juice and the good stuff, a lot of that good stuff that you really want is really on the paid subscription. I put a lot of that good stuff up in there, and I'm steady uploading other information. I got some stuff I'm gonna put up today for the membership, for my members and stuff like that. So if you want to get more detailed information that goes a lot more into uh, other things you may want to know, you might want to sign up and get that membership and get caught up because it's a lot of information that I don't even talk about anymore. It's a lot of forms, documents, websites, different things that I've discovered over the years. And a lot of that stuff is on that YouTube paid subscription. So if you want to know about certain documents, forms that you might need to use or whatever, you might want to, that's what I'm saying. You got to tap in, man, because uh, as time go on, I'm steady moving forward with the information. But like I said, I thank you guys again for tuning in. Um, I catch y'all in the next one. Stay tuned because I got more great information on the way. And like always, I leave you as I always do in love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality for us all. Have a blessed, have a wonderful day. Catch y'all in the next one.